Welcome to Something to Wrestle With. Bruce Prichard. Well, you know.
We talked earlier about Bret Hart being frustrated sort of coming in to this show, and there's a lot to cover here. So let's just start from the beginning, and we'll use Bret's book here. On May 24th, I was summoned to a secret photo shoot in Halifax to do promotional shots for the SummerSlam 1993. Hogan and I posed doing a mock tug of war with the world title belt standing chin to forehead, sneering and gritting our teeth. It's important to remember that meeting in Halifax is where they announce that Linda is now the president. Bret would continue, if I faced Hogan at SummerSlam, win or lose, I knew he'd be booed and I'd be the underdog. What didn't occur to me was that Hogan knew it too. On May 29th, Vince called me at home to tell me the big news that I was getting the belt back. What I didn't expect to hear was that he was getting ready to call Hogan and hated the thought of telling him that he was too old and tired for a company whose marketing strategy was now based around a new generation concept. Vince wanted to make Hogan into the Babe Ruth of the WWF and use him more as a special attraction. He asked me not to say anything until he had spoken to Hogan. 10 days later, Vince called again. He warned me that he was about to tell me something that would make me really angry. Hogan was flat out refusing to put me over, saying I wasn't in his league. Vince had decided that Yoko would be getting the belt instead, and I couldn't believe that Hogan would do this to me. I remember him shaking my hand at WrestleMania 9 and telling me he'd be happy to return the favor. Vince said he'd have one more meeting with Hogan and try to sell him on it, but if he didn't go for it, I'd work with Lawler at SummerSlam instead. Hogan didn't go for it, and I wanted to believe that Vince hadn't told me the whole story, and I made my mind to confront Hogan as soon as he dropped the belt to Yoko. I'd wait until then because it doesn't seem right for me to change Yoko's destiny. So Bret's version of events up to this point, do you remember the photo shoot in Halifax for SummerSlam 93 with the mock tug of war with the belt?
We did do that. We did that. And the Halifax was a TV taping, and it was for something that we were doing, not only for the magazine, but it was something that in our head way back then, that's where we wanted to go, was Hulk and Bret at SummerSlam.
Do you remember there being a conversation within the office about, God damn it, Hogan won't put Bret over?
I remember, it didn't exactly happen like that from our vantage point, at least from what we were told by Vince, was that Hogan wanted to do it to Yoko, and Hulk wanted Yoko to take the title. And I think that he felt there was more money there than Bret. Now, how Vince presented that to Bret and how Bret took it, I can see Bret taking it exactly that way. Hulk didn't want to put him over, and Hulk didn't want to drop the title to him. Hulk wanted to drop it to a monster. Hulk felt that there was more money in the rematch with Yoko versus a match with Bret being a quote babyface match. And that was how, it was presented to us from Hulk's point of view. God, man, you put me in a babyface versus babyface position again, like with Warrior. And now they've got to pick and choose, and they've got to decide. And you should have, put me against a traditional heel like the Big Monster, and let the Big Monster, the evil menace, take it off of me. And that's how it was presented to us. But I can see Vince saying all that shit to Bret.
Just to stir it up?
Vince was probably pissed. Vince probably, went from one phone call to the next. And Vince was probably pissed and frustrated over not getting the SummerSlam match that he wanted.
So this is directly from Bret's book. Once Hogan got back to his dressing room, I knocked on the door and stepped in. Jimmy Hart, Dave Hebner, and Beefcake were with him. I said, Terry, I want to speak with you. And we stared at each other. Quote, you told me at WrestleMania 9 you'd be happy to return the favor. And as I understood it, now you don't even want to work with me. You won't put me over, and I'm not in your league. Hogan stood there speechless, so I carried on. Well, you're right. You're not in my league. On behalf of myself, my family, and most of the boys in the dressing room, you can go fuck yourself. He stuttered, brother, you don't know the whole story. And Bret says, I got the story directly from Vince. Terry, you haven't said 10 words to me since you got back almost 4 months ago. If you want to level with me, then go ahead. I'm right here. And Hogan said, I can't. Why not? Because you just told me to go fuck myself. That's right. And I'll tell you again, go fuck yourself. And I turned and walked out, heading straight for the ring to wrestle Bam Bam for the main event of the tournament. Did you see or hear this confrontation or hear about it? What can you tell us about this meeting in the locker room?
I heard about it after the fact from Bret. But I don't even think I heard about it that night. I don't think I heard about it until, the TVs after that Bret was, still pissed off and had confronted Hulk and said, hey, I heard you wouldn't put me over. And, the way I remembered it back then was that Hulk didn't say anything. And Bret was like, well, fuck you, and left. But Bret went in and confronted him after the fact. And basically said, hey man, I heard you don't want to put me over. You don't want to put me over, then fuck you.